We're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Powell and Pals. We've been off for a few days, but we are deciding to come to you live via video, although Keith can't see me. He needs more light on his camera, but he's going to be okay. This show is a joke for, what date is it? Well, today is...
this is Wednesday.
It is a Wednesday. I actually lost track of the days today. I'll tell that story in a second. But it's April 22nd, which means it's Earth Day. And that means it is, what else? It's National Month of the Military Child. That one's sort of been left off a little bit. And what else? What else are we leaving off here? I forgot.
It's the 22nd.
And it's the 22nd. So anyway, Earth Day is probably the biggie. And if you're eating some dirt today, cheers. I woke up this morning, Keith, and actually couldn't remember if I had to go into work today or not. That's the whole transposition of schedules to me is getting totally screwed up. So that was kind of funny. And so eventually I did figure out that I didn't have to go in, fortunately. And so here we are doing the podcast again. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. That is not an issue I have to deal with on a daily basis. I get up, I come downstairs, I turn on the computers, and I'm at work. Right. Yeah, that's...
and
I'm getting really tired of it.
I know.
I want to be in the office.
I kind of tired of it, too. I actually went in the office today to... Is that still good? Yeah, that's still good. Just to be seen more than anything else. I mean, I had to ask a couple of questions, but I was like, I'm going to go into the office. I had to get my mail, and I got this thing, which is hopefully going to help. Oh, you can't see it. You can't. Sorry, I
can't see it.
I got to get the feed. We'll fix that for the next one. There's got to be a way to do that. Anyway, we have a big show, as we always do. We're going to talk about a lot of stuff. But at the end of the show, we have our military aircraft bracket. So this is
We're going to geek out so hard.
We're going to geek so hard. So this is going to be a Thursday feature because Powell started this last time with the music bracket, which was hugely popular. And it's the first time we soared past 100 downloads of the podcast. So that was a big deal. I know, scary, right? We keep growing like the fire of the sun. So... I've decided to make Thursdays, although we didn't do a Tuesday show. I was a little out of sorts. So Tuesdays and Thursdays are your normal shows. And if we do decide to keep this live video thing, we will be doing it probably at 3 o'clock rather than 2 o'clock, just because the East Coast of the United States may be a little more amiable to watching something at 9 o'clock versus 8 in the morning. What do you think?
You're the mastermind behind it. I'm just the voice.
I'm
one of the voices.
You're like the shepherd and I'm the sheep. Anyway,
is that what it is?
Sort of. So I guess that we should, since we do this because we're COVID captured, curfewed or whatever it is, we should probably talk about what's happening here and the easing that has started in Germany and that may be starting with things are easing. Which is good because the weather is getting better. And what you told me this morning, or what you announced on our group chat this morning, was very exciting. That the Ramstein golf course may open this Saturday, and that is quite good. I guess they figured out that golfers can very easily social distance without it being, a big deal, as long as they're not standing next to each other in the bar for the 7th or 19th hole, right?
Right. And they've been. I talk to my dad every day via text, and they live in a retirement community that has 4 golf courses.
Right.
And their whole thing is they've changed some things. They keep their social distancing.
Right.
They go 1 to a cart because everybody owns their own cart out there.
Right.
And
nobody touches each other's shuffleboard equipment, that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, they don't do that. All that's close.
I'm just kidding, Mr. Pinnell.
Don't get me started on pickleball.
Chief, sorry.
But one thing that really caught my attention was they don't mess with the flags. The flags are in the holes. They stay in the holes, and the holes are only like putting green depth, like 1/4 of an inch. So you can reach in with 2 fingers instead of your whole hand, grab your ball out of the hole, and go on. So, I mean, just being smart is what it takes to do things like that.
So they made like miniature golf-style holes. That's very interesting. I never thought of how that could be. Wow, that's pretty cool. So I guess the other thing that's interesting is that the German states, of which there are 16, I believe, have begun the process of easing. And part of that easing is that, well, at least in Bavaria and starting on Monday in our state of Rhineland false Rhineland-Palatinate. I always screw that up, but I think I got it right that time. Everyone, if you're going to go somewhere, you have to wear a mask, and you can have like outings that includes like one family friend. So I'm just thinking of the Hunger Games style thing people have to go through just in order to say, okay, you're going to be the friend. You're going to be the friend, right? And so it'll be interesting to see if they can make that work. How people will make that work. But it looks like more stores are opening. I saw something that maybe the vendors in the BX Mall will open again soon, but I don't want to get ahead of that. That may happen. So easing. And it's because we've all sat around in our houses, as we talked about at the top, and sat on our hands and did shit and flattened the curve, to use the cliche, right? Because we were able to sort of stomp the virus out and keep the numbers low, and especially here in Germany, which has been praised for its efforts, and we don't need to go through all that. So it is pretty cool, right, that we're in this position where things can start easing, especially as I turn and look out my window that this whole thing is happening, and that we're able to move my camera slightly too. That we're able to ease.
It is, and it's nice that. Apparently we've peaked.
Right.
Now, don't get me wrong. We still have cases out there. Germany is still getting cases every day.
Right.
But it's on the downward trend.
Right.
Now, I don't believe Keith's opinion on our little podcast here. I don't think it's peaked in America yet.
Right.
But here it has peaked. They are still keeping, as you've alluded to, the stores that have opened are all under, in American terms, about 8,600 square feet. So the big furniture stores and the big IKEAs, they're not open yet.
Right.
But the smaller stores are, the mom and pop shops, if you will, are going to be open, and that helps everybody a lot. The restaurants are still doing takeout and delivery, and help me out there because I don't remember what the rule is on restaurants.
Restaurants will be dine-in, but they're supposed to set them up so that the tables are like 90 feet apart, or 6 feet apart, or something like that. So if
you got to run around the bases to get to a table.
Exactly, okay. you got to hit a single in order to get served, right? So
that's right.
Yeah, I think the tables have to be socially distanced. Any stores that open, they have to have, like the signs on the floor that say stand a meter apart, do all that. So in other words, as long as they can keep these social distancing sorts of rules in place until we go back to like a HealthCon Bravo, which is just a generalization, just that sort of set of standards, then you can go in these stores. And that's, I kind of agree with that. I kind of agree with that. Although, it's still sort of breaking in the United States. But to me, I think you could have kept businesses open in that manner if they had just said, okay, only like if you have a very small store, only one person in the store. Or, so many people in the store to be able to keep a social distance and to keep – why would you not now close the business? Now a theater, you sit right next to each other. Okay, figure out what your capacity is and tell people you can only sit every 4 seats apart, right? But even then, you're breathing in and you're in a room, I guess, so the germs are floating around there. But
the movie Outbreak, that's how it got started. The kid got bit by a monkey.
Yes.
And then he went to his second job and went on a date. Went on a date and coughed in the theater.
Yeah.
Oh, that drives me crazy.
But I like the notion that businesses can do this and open it. I don't agree with like gyms because the virus apparently. Based on things that I've read, so I don't know how accurate they are or not, but credible things I've read said the virus lives longer on, say, metal than it does on other surfaces, and, if you're going to use gym equipment, it's going to be all over that. And, people opening gyms to me are, like the one I heard yesterday was, and we'll just make sure everybody keeps social distancing and da-da-da-da-da, and I just think of there's like 2 commercials that we have over here of people bitching about cleaning off gym equipment. And I'm pretty sure that's a problem in every gym, and it's not going to change anytime soon. Of people just, I'm going to use the weight. Some other asshole can clean it.
Before you and I got here.
Right.
So those things were running in normal times.
Right.
And now we have this, and people still don't clean off their machines.
Exactly.
Still don't clean off the.
Yeah.
all that stuff. So it's tough, and I'm not against gyms. I kind of have PTSD because being a social media guy for work for the last 8 years or whatever it was, you can say everything's closed. Everything. Don't even bother asking. Everything is closed.
Right.
Okay, but are the gyms open?
Right.
Come on, man.
Yeah. Come on, man. Yeah, exactly. Now, you can't see it, but we are both wearing hats that have a D association with it and lately a loser association with it. You are wearing your Dallas Cowboys hat, and I'm wearing
OU shirt.
And I'm wearing my Detroit Red Wings hat today. Which they have been awful the last 2 or 3 years. But Steve Yzerman's gone back to Detroit, and he's going to be there. What about this whole thing? Have you been watching this whole thing with Kim Jong-un maybe being dead?
I caught a couple of headlines. I haven't gone in depth with it.
Kim Jong-un or is it Kim Jong-il?
We haven't heard from him. And as it's been alluded to by various people on my Facebook page, well, North Korea doesn't have any numbers. Yeah, but China has numbers and South Korea has numbers, so you can't tell me North Korea doesn't have numbers. And we haven't heard from the little corporal either.
Well, the story that leaked out, which I find suspicious, but the story that leaked out was that he was gravely injured during surgery. Something happened during surgery and it messed him up pretty bad.
What kind of surgery?
I don't know. Maybe it was, like a bowel surgery or something. I don't know, but he was. But again, I don't know. And it's like, as always, I wonder, okay, how does a story like this leak out of North Korea? Yeah, okay. How does it leak out of North Korea in the first place? I guess that's my question, And
fake news.
Fake news, right? And to what I think, anyways. Hey, congratulations, CIA, on another one. Maybe this will make this one work. But him maybe being dead is, old heads will be like, oh, Generalissimo Francisco Franco from Saturday Night Live, which when I was growing up I didn't understand, and then you read he was just bloody dictator of Spain and all these other things, and it was questionable whether he was actually still ruling or whether he was or dead, and it turned out he was dead for a while. So, yeah, I know. Whatever. It doesn't help us to not have North Korea as an enemy because we have 40,000 troops stationed in South Korea, and we have interests in that area. So I don't think he's going to be dying anytime soon.
That we know of.
Nor will we, for that matter.
Yes.
So I told you, we've got these hats on because we are sports fans, and we did warn our listeners that we would be talking sports every now and then.
I know what's coming.
So we better get to the obvious here, which, well, first is, I don't think we talked about Brady being traded to the Buccaneers. We did, because I said it was a lot like Montana going from the Niners to the Chiefs and Namath and the others. Okay, so now the big news as of last night is, well, you say it. I've been talking a lot. Go ahead.
Gronk comes out of retirement for $10 million and is the Buccaneers have committed a trade with the Patriots, $10 million, and Gronk comes out of retirement.
Okay.
Gronk comes out of retirement. Wasn't it just 2 weeks ago he had signed a contract with the WWE?
I don't know. I don't follow his life. He did this really awful comedy special for Netflix, or I can't remember who, but he was the host, and it was these sort of old heads, a couple of guys from Boston, just these C-list comedians a couple I recall who used to be very funny, but now they were just like guys who would come on stage for Gronk. And I just thought, okay, he's settling into his celebrity persona nicely. That's fine. He is. I was trying to think of the football player comparisons, in the old, like Alex Karras, or who was the guy in Blazing Saddles who punched the horse? He was a football player.
That was Alex Karras.
It was Alex Karras. I thought it was. I wasn't
Jim
sure.
Jim Brown did the Dirty Dozen.
Right, but Fred Dreyer was on one of my favorite TV shows ever, Hunter. And so, expected him to sort of begin making that transition to whatever it was he was going to do. I mean, you look at Wilt Chamberlain; he was in a Conan movie, for heaven's sake. So, I mean, so anyway. What I thought was, and please comment on this. What I thought was interesting about all this is, at some point, Gronk had said, "I'm done. I'm retired." But part of that was I'm so broken up in my body that I'm just not going to come back. And yet yesterday they traded him to the Bucks for a 4th-round pick, which is basically like saying, okay, we'll give you your out. Go ahead and go to the Bucks. I found it's all fascinating to me because everybody deserves to work as long as they can, and that's fine. And a lot of us just thought it was the end of the line. But I think what's more fascinating to me about this isn't the trade. It's the exodus of Brady to Tampa, and now it's the trading of Gronk to Tampa, which is, I guess, hey, you've both done service for us. We'll give you what you want. But why would Brady leave in the first place if there's such a winning organization? Why would Gronk immediately accept going to Tampa Bay? I think all that acrimony they talked about a year ago has to be coming true to a great degree. What do you think?
Oh, I think there's some animosity there between Belichick and Brady.
Right.
Quickly to Gronk. I think Gronk ejected because Brady wasn't going to be there.
Oh, right.
I mean, that's the simple part for me, and we all know Gronk is just a simple guy.
I don't know about that.
But as far as Brady, I really think that there's some animosity there.
Right.
I think he knows he's got. He said he wants to play until he's 45, and he's 42.
Yeah.
I don't think he's got 3 years left in him.
Yeah.
But so
I thought he looked I thought he was in that Peyton Manning first year of the Broncos stage. His releases looked a little slow. He seemed to have zip on the ball sometimes, but not all the time. It wasn't necessarily a question of could he do it. He could do it. It just took a little longer to do it than usual. I think that's what I saw anyway. What about you?
So, I agree. I've always said I don't like Brady, but I love to watch him.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
He's so mechanically sound. It's incredible.
Right.
I love to watch him play. I love to watch his footballs in the air.
Right.
And the way he throws, the mechanics, and his competitiveness.
Right.
I've always told you I'm hyper competitive, and
me too.
he's the same way. So if you're figuring, okay, I want to play until I'm 45.
Right.
Probably won't make it. I'm mad here. I'm upset here. I got more money than God.
Right.
So I don't need that. So I think I've got 1 year, maybe 2 left.
Right.
Let's go someplace warm.
Here, listen.
Hang on.
Listen.
I'm upset here. I got more money than God.
Right.
So I don't need that.
So our stream is working. I just wanted you to know that. Go ahead.
You
sound great. You sound fantastic.
A fourth of that money. Anyway, yes. So go someplace warm that has a decent team.
Right.
They just needed a good quarterback.
Yeah.
And Jameis Winston wasn't it, by the way.
Right.
And so maybe he can work with somebody. Plus, he's got who did we talk about last time? He's got Arians as the coach. And
Arians is a great offensive coach.
As the OC.
Right.
So he's got a decent guard there, meaning the guard of the team there. Plus, he's got good players, good receivers. He's Gronk is going to play if he's healthy. So he's got that safety net.
Right.
It's looking better for him all the time.
I think and plus, they have the Maginot line of strip clubs from Ybor City all the way up to St. Pete. So, I mean, I don't think
I'm sure that was a consideration.
I'm sure it was, too. Gronk's like, do you have at least 10 strip clubs that'll know who I am? They're like, yeah, no problem. We've got that good thing. But I like Tampa. I've been there a couple times. I've always been sort of a closet Tampa Bay Buccaneers fans, but only when they had the creamsicle uniforms.
Yes.
And I always liked underdogs. So I always, like to see, I always like to root for teams like the Browns and the Bucks. But the Bucks always had a little special place in my heart because I liked their logo and I liked the colors for a long time. I was always a Raiders fan, but I always had. So one year when Sam Weish was the coach, I actually wrote him a letter and said, "Hey, I'm a big fan of what you're trying to do down in Tampa. I know you're an offensive innovator." This was when I was like 20 or 21, and he wrote me back. He wrote me back like 3 months later. I typed on Buccaneers letterhead. I still have it around here somewhere. Went, "Hey, thanks for your interest and your support." Signed by Sam Weish. So that was pretty cool. But I guess it will be interesting to see. I think part of what helped Brady and Gronk and the whole cast there was that they had a great offensive line in New England, and that may suffer a little bit down south. Maybe that was why Jameis Winston had to run around so often. And, maybe that's why Dak Prescott has to run around so often, too. Still asking for $40 million. What's his status?
They're still in negotiation. Run back to the Tampa Bay aside really quick.
Yeah.
When I was in junior high playing football, my coach was last name Cotney. I don't want to say his first name. But his brother was Mark Cotney, safety for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So when we started playing football that year, his brother was out because of a broken arm he got during training camp.
Right.
So his first game back was against Dallas, in Dallas.
Right.
Danny White's first throw, intercepted by Mark Cotney. There's my connection to Tampa Bay. There you have it.
All right, so one of the things I'm going to try to do for our broadcast here is put up this bracket that we have got this week, and it's going to take us a while to get through. So if you're not into military aircraft, or you're not into geeking about military aircraft, or being a kid and wanting to go in the Air Force, or having parents that were in the Air Force and military, thanks for listening today. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. But if you're still with us, let me see if I can get this up on the screen. I think I can. Let me see.
I got to get it on my phone.
There it is. Okay. So maybe I know what I'll do. I'll put it in a separate.
Wait, breaking news. Breaking news.
Hit me with it.
Percy Harvin is ready to return to the NFL.
I bet he wants to go to the Buccaneers.
That I don't know yet. He says he's ready to come back.
All right.
Has the itch to come back. Okay.
All right, so guess what? I've got the bracket. You'll see this when you watch the show after we're done. But you have the bracket in front of you somewhere, I assume, correct?
You sent it to me, yes.
Okay, great. So you'll probably want to bring that up so we can talk intelligently about it. I have adjusted a bit of it on screen for our viewers. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition over that. And we're going to start this is a military aircraft popularity contest. Nothing more. That's all this is how much wood do each of these planes give us? And how excited do we get were they the ones that really tickled our fancy when we were young? Are they still pretty cool now? And so on and so forth. So that's all this is. This is just a popularity contest. This is not a capabilities run. This is really just a popularity contest. So this is also something that I'm featuring as I bring it up here. There's the bracket. So we're not on, just so you're aware. This is also something I feature on an Instagram site I run that talks about F-14 Tomcats, which I'm a big fan of that airplane as well. So if you go there, you'll see it as well. So let's do this. Do you have your bracket in front of you?
I do.
All right, good, because I have my completed bracket in front of me, so I know what I want. So let's run this down. We have 32 aircraft. I actually went big, so 32 planes. Let me name them off, all right? Your 1 seed is the F-14 Tomcat. The 1 seed is going up against the Sukhoi Su-27 Flanker. Let's see, where's your 2 seed? Your 2 seed is the SR-71 Blackbird. That's going up against the MiG-21 BIS. That's a venerable favorite around the world. It's used by 40 different air forces. I had no idea. Your 3 seed is the P-51 Mustang, as flown by Chuck Yeager and others, and the Red Tails of the Tuskegee Airmen. Mm-hmm. That is going up against the F-86 Sabre, the very plane that sits on the stilt in front of the the KMC Mall. Your 4 seed is the F-15 Eagle versus the F-5 Tiger. F-5 I've always liked a lot, but I don't think there's a competition there. Your number 5 seed is the A-10 Warthog. That's going up against the F-105 Thunder Chief. The 6th seed is the Panavia Tornado, a favorite around the world. The Panavia Tornado to me is like soccer, but we'll get to that in a minute. It's fantastic everywhere but the United States. That's your 6th seed. It's going up against, at the 27 seed, the C-5 Galaxy. The 7 seed is the F-22 Raptor, one of my favorites. That's going up against the 26 seed C-17 Globemaster. The 8 seed is the F-35 Lightning against the B-2. 9 Eurofighter versus FU Corsair, the old Pappy Boeington Marine aircraft. I knew you'd remember that, but I just want to make sure that our listeners had that. The 10-23 matchup is the FA-18 Hornet versus the AV-8 Harrier. The 11-22 is F-4 Phantom versus the XB-70 Valkyrie Bomber, a bomber that failed because of a public affairs mistake. We'll talk more about that when we get there. The 12 seed is the Avro Vulcan Bomber versus the AJS-37 Viggen.
You like the Vulcan. I know you do.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute. The 13 seed is the B-52 Stratofortress against the A-7 Corsair. 14, F-104 Starfighter, the mostly uncontrollable airplane.
So with a man in it.
Birthed by a U-2 and an X-15 versus the number 19 KC-135 Stratotanker. And the 15 seed is the Spitfire versus the B-17 Flying Fortress. And your final seed is your Mirage 2000 against the B-58 Hustler. So we're just going to go through each of these. We'll get through these first couple of rounds pretty quickly because there's a bunch.
Some of those are tough, man.
So let's go back to you and I on screen. So let's take a look at the first matchup, which is the F-14. Now, we'll say that's a 1 seed. So we'll start at the bottom here. The Mirage 2000 versus the B-58. This was no contest for me. Both great airplanes, but as a kid, I grew up wanting to fly a B-58 Hustler. I just recently bought it at the top of the year when I started my book reading binge, which has actually come to a bit of a halt. I bought a great book on the B-58 Hustler written by a B-58 pilot. He's talking about the nuclear drills they used to do. Love this plane. Love the way it looked. Was always fascinated by the fact that this nuclear bomber could go like 2,000 miles an hour. So this was no contest for me. I put the B-58 Hustler on to the next round.
What are we going to do if we disagree, just out of curiosity?
We'll figure it out.
Okay, well, we're not disagreeing. But for those who non-airplane people or may not know what some of these planes are and have continued listening, strangely enough,
right.
The Mirage 2000 was one of the first of the new fourth generation of fighters that had it looked like a triangle with an extra long point. So it was a delta wing is what they call it.
Right, it looked like an F-106 or the F-100 series of planes. It looked like an F-106 or the F-100 series of planes, if you're familiar with
Right. So very capable aircraft. B-58 come.
Wow, you got a lot of C words there. Should pick one.
Came out in the late 50s and was one of America's first nuclear deterrent jets.
All right.
One of them. Very fast, as Jason said, and
sexy looking.
I'm going with the B-58, mostly for its. I can't think. I'm losing my words today. Apparently, I'm having a stroke. I don't know.
The B-58 is a chrome, sexy Gina Lola Brigida. It is fantastic. Hey, do me a favor. Tap on your microphone a couple times. Okay, you know what? You're not using that microphone. You're using your webcam microphone right now. So we'll figure that out on the next time. But I can hear you. I was wondering why you were echoing so much, and it's because that microphone is not the one selected. But we'll do that later. The next matchup, Keith, is, let's see, we did the 16. Let's go to the 15-18 matchup. The Spitfire versus the B-17 Flying Fortress. You go first.
Is this better?
I can hear you. That's it.
Hey. It's funny when we were doing, hey, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? You didn't say anything, half hour ago.
But I did hear you, but I didn't notice the echo till we were well into the show, and I thought maybe it's. I've done that a million times where it switched over to my webcam mic, and I had to switch it back to, this baby right here.
You can't see me, but those that are watching, watch me.
I can see you. I can see you.
Plug it in. I just plugged it in.
Okay. You sound good though. Now you sound rich and creamy.
What are our choices this time?
All right, so this is the 15-18 matchup between the submarine Spitfire and the B-17 Flying Fortress.
They both meant a lot to their respective countries?
Yeah.
Wow.
Tough one, right? B-17, I believe, also dropped the atomic bombs, did it not?
No, that was the 29.
29, okay.
I did an interview with the
guy Paul
Tibbets.
Yeah, Tibbets, whose
Paul
son
Tibbets.
went on to be a major general or lieutenant general.
Yes.
Yeah. So you got to pick one now.
So
quit dawdling.
I have to go with the 17 just because it won the war.
All right.
In Europe, it won the war in Europe. So I have to go with the 17.
All right. Well, I'm differing with
I've
you.
actually flown on a 17, by the way.
Have you really? Was it loud and rumbly and like that?
It's everything you would expect it to be.
All right.
Yes, I've looked in the Norden bomb site at
That's
altitude.
So cool.
It's awesome.
The Norden bomb site. Again, we're geeking here. The Norden bomb site was an invention so fucking far ahead of its time. I mean, it was so highly classified. And it was so amazing. And then if you ever get a chance, that just since we're talking about the 17, there's a great article. I'll have to find it. I'll post it somewhere about basically how Silicon Valley came into being was because it created the airplanes that flew along with the bombers, sending out the ECM stuff to block the radars that were on the ground and help stave off some of the losses. And through that development of that sort of came Silicon Valley. And there was just this give and take between us and our adversaries on they would tweak their radars, we would tweak our radar, they would tweak theirs. And it did keep bomber losses down, but it's a pretty amazing story. I have to find it. So we differ here. I think
really?
I move on with the Spitfire. The Spitfire to me is so indelibly imprinted in my head, even before the P-51 was, as the flying fighter of World War II. Even before the P4 or the F4U that we'll get to in a little bit, even before the P-51 and anything else, the Messerschmitt, whatever you want to say. This is, to me, like when I think of World War II, aside from the atrocities and the other things, when I think of icons of World War II, the Spitfire to me. So we differ there. We'll have to flip a coin to see which one is going on in the next round. Okay. Your 14-19 F-104 Starfighter versus the KC-135 Stratotanker. Probably not much of a matchup here because it's not very sexy. But I included the tanker for my tanker buddies.
Not even a contest.
Yeah.
The 104 set altitude records, speed records, but it was good for nothing other than that.
Right.
The Stratotanker. It really was. I mean, for those that don't know, you want to explain this one?
No, go ahead. You do it.
Is we always see or hear how do planes get across the ocean? How do F-16s or F-35, the fighters with relatively small gas tanks get to here, to Germany or whatever. Well, there's a plane like the KC-135 or now the KC-46 as it comes online that literally drops what looks like a little stinger out the back of at the back end of it. The other plane pulls up and they pass gas right there, and that's how they fill up. It's a gas station in the sky. So there are stories from Vietnam where tanker commanders, KC-135 commanders, have broken the rules and gone into because these are high-value targets, mind you. If you can blow up a KC-135, that's a force multiplier. So have gone into places they're not supposed to, hooked up to an F4, which is later in our bracket, and literally pulled or fed gas into an F4 as much going in as coming out through holes because the F4 has been shot up. But so my vote, without any trepidation whatsoever, is the 135 over the 104.
See, we differ here too. I picked the F-104 just because it's cooler looking. So again, I love my KC-135 tanker buddies, and they know that I love them, but the 104 is just a sexier looking airplane with a lot more to do. So I moved that on. So that's another coin flip.
I just gave you all these facts, all these reasons.
It was good. No, it was a good education.
I'm going with the other one because it's sexier.
All right.
We just had a Facebook argument there.
Hey, everybody. Mrs. Tudor is in here. She's putting on her shoes.
Well, hello.
You know what? She wants to. She's going to want to go somewhere soon. So, and we're only doing the first two rounds, so that's fine. All right. So we'll flip a coin on that one too. 1320 B-52 versus the A-7 Corsair. The A-7 Corsair is a loud, whiny plane, and when I grew up in San Diego, my stepdad, I should say, worked at Miramar. He was in the Navy, and he worked on the flight line, and the A-7, there were many of these on the flight line, and they were just loud, whiny, weirdly odd jets. But worth noting because it's an attack airplane, drops a lot of bombs, does that kind of thing. On the other hand, you have the B-52 Stratofortress. There couldn't really be a more iconic airplane than the B-52 Stratofortress. I deployed with B-52s. I got to ride in a B-52, the first one to take off and launch the first cruise missile in Iraq. I didn't ride with it, but I rode the taxi all the way up until it launched because I was interviewing the pilots, trying to get in their feeling and the crew and all that. So this is an easy one for me. This is B-52 all the way.
We do not disagree on this one.
All right, so we can.
The buff is. I did an interview in Omaha with a lieutenant colonel at the time who worked at SAC. He had been the cell lead in Desert Storm, that launched the first cruise missiles of the war, and it was the buff goes back to The 50s, the first Buff rolled off the line.
Right.
Buff is a B-52, pilots being pilots, shortened it to Buff. Big, ugly, fat, insert your F word of choice there.
Yeah. All right.
So, and it's still flying today. That's the incredible thing.
Right.
So, yeah, we don't differ Buff all the way.
Okay, no problem. So we need to get through this round. We can save our articulation for the later rounds.
Okay.
Let's see. We did 13, so let's go to 12. 12 is, I've lost track. Here it is. Vulcan Bomber versus the AJS-37 Viggen. Viggen is another Delta Wing plane, very popular in the flight sim that I play, but mostly a air interdiction, kind of a sea interdiction attack airplane built in Sweden, I think by Saab. And the Avro Vulcan Bomber is probably the greatest bomber in the world. But so I pick Vulcan there. You?
I'll go with Vulcan too. It's like England's B-52.
Okay.
Really, yeah. I'll go with Vulcan.
F4 Phantom versus the XB-70 Valkyrie in the 11-22 matchup. This is tough. The XB-70 was a really sexy-looking plane, and I tipped this to the listeners when we started. So this is how the XB-70 was an early 70s bomber program. I think it was yet another chance to, or another viable alternative to replace the B-52. Mm-hmm. So they were in this sort of era of supersonic jets. That's how I think we got the Concorde. That's from the same era, which has since stopped flying, and some other things. So at some point, they were testing the XB-70, and what they said is, what we need to do is put somebody in a T-38 and shoot photos of this plane. And apparently the T-38 went to make a maneuver on behalf of the photographer and hit the XB-70, and it crashed, and basically it ended the program because they only had one other, and then the cost overruns came and so on and so forth. It's a weird, awesome, strikingly different jet that has a lot of lore to it. But that said, the F4 Phantom is an amazing, another icon jet. I've flown that on my sim. It's incredible. Another jet associated with my favorite military squadron, the Jolly Rogers. I go F4 all the way.
I'll go F4. That video of the XB-70 crash is midair is horrendous.
Yeah, it's not good.
But F4, I thought I was going to see an F4 crash in Turkey. Some countries are still flying the F4, by the way.
They are.
So
we've even stopped using them as drones down at Tyndall Air Force Base. We've moved on to I think 106s or even 16s now. So yeah. Right. Okay, so we agree that is the F4. The 10-23 matchup is the F-18 Hornet and the Harrier, the AVA. Who you got? Tough, right? That's kind of an interesting matchup. They're both good planes. One's going to be in a movie later this year, and the other one ain't.
Yeah,
although maybe it will. I hate
that movie. I think just for
does wonders for recruiting.
A curveball, I'm going to go with the Harrier.
See, we agreed on that. That's interesting. F-18 is like, to me, a generic fighter. In fact, I just saw a headline a couple days ago that said Germany was buying like 50 of them to replace another aircraft that we'll get to in a minute. I just
saw that this morning.
They're very ubiquitous. They're very easily configurable. I'm sure there's parts a million for them. So in the Super Hornet configuration. All right, so we agree on that. So the Harrier moves on. Let's go to the 9 matchup. The Eurofighter versus the Pappy Boeington F4U Corsair. I'll give you a minute on this. Go ahead.
I don't know a lot about the Eurofighter other than it is said to be a great airplane.
Right.
But come on, the Corsair. I grew up watching, as you said, Black Sheep Squadron or Baba Black Sheep.
Yep.
That's where I've seen Corsairs live and fly, and that big propeller and the sound it makes. Yeah. Man, I got to go with the Corsair.
Let me tell you how it's faring online, just so you know. Sorry, as I look at my Instagram, because I'm polling this on my Instagram as well, and the Corsair, the F4U version, is getting crushed by the Eurofighter, 71-29 after 89 votes. But you and I both agree that the F4U moves on. So, that said, we go to 726, the Raptor versus the C-17 Globemaster. Easy choice for me. I did 2 stories on the Raptor, one very insider baseball one when it was still being developed at Edwards. The Raptor to me is the most incredible fighter I've ever written about, that I know stuff about, and that I've seen perform. And it's amazing, and it was an easy choice for me. So I picked Raptor here.
The C-17 is the workhorse of strategic airlift right now.
Right. It's an amazing plane, too.
Any day or time you can look down the Ramstein runway or look above in the sky and see a C-17.
Right.
But I agree. The F-22 is cosmic.
Right.
It is light years ahead of anything else in the sky until the Chinese steal it or the Russians. And, F-22 moves on.
Speaking of planes in the cargo category, that would be our 627 matchup, which is the Panavia Tornado and the C-5 Galaxy. Now, I have flown on several C-5 Galaxies to many different places. I have even flown in the upstairs backwards on them, which is a weird experience. It is a fantastically cool, fat, awesome plane. And the only time I've ever really seen a tornado, to be fair, is on YouTube. They have these videos where you can watch supersonic jets and other jets fly through what they call the Mach loop, which is...
That's on my bucket list while I'm in Europe, by the way.
The Mach loop is this loop that they do in England. It goes through... This part of it that you see most of the time, I believe that's in Wales. And the F-15Es and other aircraft and the tornadoes come whooshing through there. And a lot of the times the pilot will, so they can see me, I'm sorry you can't see me do this, but they'll flip up like this so that the photographers who are standing here on the side of the hill can take a picture of them. And
they play to the photo.
Of course they do.
That's really cool.
Because they can, and they're fighter pilots. So
why not?
I love the C-5, and I think I put it in here out of that love, but I picked the Tornado.
I love the aluminum overcast as the C-5 is known. It's the biggest plane in the Western world.
That's right. Yeah,
and it's synonymous. It's on the city seal of Altus, Oklahoma.
Is it really? I didn't know that.
Because for the longest time, that's where pilots went to their whatever you call pilot training for specific aircraft. Okay. I don't know, but that's where C-5 pilots.
Oh, right,
trained.
right. How did I not remember that? Okay, got it.
So it's in my heart. But the Tornado, to me, which really has its came to its own in the first Gulf War. Mm-hmm. Man, that is a sexy, low-flying. You have to duck when it flies,
just
kind of thing.
Just like the plane that's in our number one seed, the F-14. It's like the Euro version. The Tornado is, and I said this earlier, it's like soccer, football. It's soccer in the sense that, like, everybody who's not in the United States loves the Tornado, thinks it's one of the coolest planes ever. The flight sim community that I'm in, they're demanding that they make this model. It's a beautiful airplane, and it's just the people in the United States don't know it. But it's an amazing airplane. All right, so I think we both have the Tornado moving on there.
Yes.
The 528 is A10 Warthog F105. Since we're coming up against it on time, I picked
A10.
I picked the F105. Yeah, but I'll tell you what, I'll switch that. I'll go A10 just for the sake of time. I picked the 105 because I'm sort of romantically tied to it, and it's an interesting airplane I've seen footage of, and how that thing did what it did is pretty amazing. All right, F-15 Eagle versus the F-5 Tiger.
To me, there's no contest.
Yeah, F-15.
The 15
in all forms, the C forms, the Strike Eagle forms, all the forms. So that one's an easy one that we move on with that. The 330 seed is the P-51 Mustang and the F-86 Sabre. What you got?
I have to go. I know that the F-86 was the first jet fighter.
Right.
But I still have to go with the Mustang.
Yeah, I go with that one as well. Too many good memories of that. Unit that I was attached with, 325th Fighter Wing, the Checker Tails.
Nice.
Also came out of P-51 heritage. I built a couple of P-51 models when I was a kid. That one was a no-brainer for me as well. All right, we're to the 2 and the 1 seed, and then we're probably going to catch the next round on the next podcast because I need to wrap it up. The 2 seed is the SR-71 Blackbird and the MiG-21 BIS. Now, so I'll lead on this. The MiG-21 BIS is a weirdly popular aircraft, again, in the flight sim community, because it's one of those you can fly in DCS World and X-Plane 11. But it's also an aircraft that's fairly ubiquitous outside the United States to a lot of its adversaries, I would think. It's in like 40 or 41 different countries. It has this sort of sleek, long design like an F-105 or an F-104, another plane that's sort of difficult to control, but it has a very sort of romantic sort of visage to it. So in the DCS World Flight Sim community, you can own modules. Those are the airplanes, and a lot of people own this one. I don't. I'm not really interested. That said, the SR-71 is the SR-71. There is no plane comparable in the discussion about airplanes to the SR-71. There just isn't. There's no other plane like it. And the things that it did and the things that it could do and the way that they had to fuel it and the fuel that it used and all these things. My friend Chris Etter worked on these things when he was a young man. Amazing plane. That's why it's a 2-seed, SR-71 all the way.
I agree. When I was in high school, my best friend's mom dated an SR-71 pilot, and he would regale us with stories of the Blackbird, and man, it's just, you cannot. There's no way the MiG-21 is going to beat the SR-71 in anything.
So
except short landings.
All right, so we agree that's the Blackbird. I skipped one. I skipped the 8-seed. I skipped the F-35 Lightning versus the B-2 Bomber. So the Flying Wing versus the new A-7 Corsair, basically. I like the F-35. It's probably a great versatile fighter. I think they've sold that thing to like 20 or 25 countries, include many of our partners and allies and all of that. But the B-2 Spirit is a weirdly amazing plane as well. It can fly for like 27 hours, from Missouri to wherever, drop bombs, and then return home, of course, with the help of a KC-135 to refuel it. And we forgot to mention that the KC-130, the Air Force aircraft, are fueled differently than Navy aircraft. We can talk about that on another time when we decide to do our military airplane show. But to me, this was a no-brainer. It was the B-2 bomber.
I agree. There's no contest.
Okay.
The B-2 is just... It is what it is, and it's a miracle of modern technology.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. All right, your final matchup for today is the F-14 Tomcat, made famous by the movie Top Gun and the movie The Final Countdown, and a couple of others. Versus
I had that DVD.
Versus the Sukhoi Su-27 Flanker, which is a pretty amazing Russian jet, which was succeeded by the Su-33, I believe. But Flanker is also very capable, like the Tomcat, much slower, but much tougher in a lot of regards. Tomcat was retired, I think, in 2005 or 2006 after they started to...
And Jesus wept.
They started to think about converting it into a Super Tomcat with all these new avionics, and they decided to buy F-18s. Su-27, again, a great dependable airplane for the folks that it has. But again, the F-14 is the 1-seed for a reason. It's probably, you were talking about the Tornado with the sexy, sleek lines, and this plane, and I wish I could show you my web browser, but I mean, my Google background is an F-14 making a really high-angle turn. No question in my mind here, all the lore that's associated with it, the amount of time that I spent around it as a kid, it's F-14 all the way.
Oh, it's F-14 all the way for me, too. The thing, it got expensive to fly. The machinery,
right.
the engine parts. Then they decided, we can make it worthwhile if we make it an attack version.
Yeah, and the swept wings were a pain in the ass to maintain, just like they were for the F-111. Yeah, big deal.
Yeah, but F-14, anything that can carry a missile that can reach out and touch you at 150 miles.
Yeah, the AIM-54.
Yep. And F-14 all the way.
Yeah, and you could turn it into a bombcat, which I do a lot of in my flight sim. So, okay, so we wrap up the first round, and then we will wrap this all up in the next podcast. But here are your round of 16 now. You'll have the F-14 versus the B-58 Hustler. That's tough for me. That's really tough. The B-2 versus the F-4U. So start thinking, pal. The F-15 versus the B-52. That's a good one. We changed on this one was changed. The A-10 versus the Avro Vulcan bomber.
That's going to be tough for you, isn't it?
Yeah. So we need to flip a coin on this one. I need to find a coin to flip. Something to flip. All right, we'll flip this bottle cap and hope it lands on an edge.
There you go.
If it lands on the please recycle me side, which I'm showing to our viewers, it's all yours, and we'll move.
I can't see, so don't you cheat.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to. And if it lands on the other side, the hollow side, we move on my Spitfire. All right, here we go. I'm flipping, and it is. All right, you want it. Flip to your side. So we will move on. The B-17 Flying Fortress as I go to pick up my pen. So the B-17 will take on the SR-71 Blackbird. The Raptor will take on the Harrier. The P-51 will take on the F-104 Starfighter. And the Tornado will take on the F-4 Phantom. So that will be our debate for the next show, and we'll go all the way to the end of the line with that. And so we'll do that plus other things, other topics as we go. So that was fun. That was a good round. I probably used too many aircraft, but I mean we probably could have done with 16, but I got the wrap it up signal here, so we got we're at 52 minutes anyway, so that's probably pretty good.
Our 100 downloads may go down to 4 this week.
we did tell people we were geeking out, so that's whatever they want to do is theirs. But I want to say something about the protests back home, but I can't find the right language to do it. So
Here, I've got something this morning, and I won't call anybody out or anything like that. So bear with me here.
All right.
I listened. I'm in phone calls every morning. You know what that's for.
I do.
So the person who was talking this morning, one of our commanders, among a bunch of other words he used in this paragraph, one line just highlighted for me, and I wrote it down. He said, we are doing this, even if we're lifting some of the restrictions, our main focus is to keep the number of cases within our medical capacity.
Right.
So every patient gets 100% attention.
Right.
So every patient has the best chance of survival.
Right.
And to me, that encapsulates everything we're trying to do.
Right.
Why are we putting these restrictions in place? So the people who get sick can get the best medical care.
Right.
And that's what it all boils down to me.
I think my favorite part of this discussion has been people who've said it's okay to think about recovering the economy, fighting off the virus, and I can't remember the third one. It's okay to want all three. And I thought, yes, it is. That's exactly what the people who are doing the planning are trying to do. And that's what I think what we lack, and that's fair, that old axiom, never trust your government or whatever, but it's the notion that there are very smart people who are trying to do very smart things on behalf of all of us, and I have to bow to that a little bit. There is the notion, again, as I brought up earlier, that maybe some of this is liability and all of that, but whatever. But I think at some point, just some of this discussion, and the easing has begun. So, I think they're going to say the protests did their job or whatever, and I don't think that's the case. I think it's because people like you and I have been sitting at home, and our colleagues and everyone else have been doing their part sitting at home, flattening the curve and staying apart and getting the number of people who have the virus down. And we just don't want to, like you said, put 200 people in a theater and have this thing just go nuts again and overwhelm the hospital system. But anyway, I like I said, I didn't really have anything coherent to say about the protest. I wanted to say something, but I didn't have anything fully formed. But what you said is righteous, so there was that, even if you do have a Dallas hat on this week. All right, so that was our first foray into video. Wave to the camera.
We're going to Super Bowl.
And we'll may do that again. We'll have to format it a little more so there's a bit more on the screen so you enjoy that. I did see a couple people we know popped up as being watching, and we did have a couple of other... Oh,
it's live?
Yeah, it's live. It's live.
Oh, shit, I didn't know that.
We're doing it live. Yeah, it's live. So, anyway, I'm not sure that's going to be the Facebook is going to be the venue either, but we'll figure that out too. So, in any case, thanks for watching and thanks for listening to the podcast today.
When are we doing it again?
I think we need to do one more this week just to wrap up the bracket and get us into the weekend.
Okay.
What do you think?
Sounds
Maybe
good to me.
How about
you know what?
What about Friday? Let's do Friday.
I'm 50 feet from my bedroom and 50 feet from my office. So there.
Nah. And your microphone's working now, so that's good.
Helps if you plug it in.
And it doesn't hurt. So we'll do one more on Friday, and then we'll get back to the regular Tuesday, Thursdays, hopefully. Even if we have to record at night. This week I was just really beat. So we'll do one more Friday.
Yeah.
And then
speaking of getting beat, you better go.
Yeah, I'm theirs. But let me just say before I go that we appreciate your downloads. You can get these on iTunes, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Play, and plenty of other places. You can get them off of my website, jasontutor.com, which is going through a bit of a renovate, so I can make sure you see that. You can also get my new book, 7 from the System, available on Amazon.com, and you can pick up my new comic book, which is Vorpal number 3, 3 issues, a total of 56 total comic book pages. Vorpal number 4 will be available this winter. Keith, anything else?
And I'm sometimes funny on Facebook.
Yeah, he's pretty good. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening, Darren. Thanks for listening, Pinnell family. Everyone else, thanks for listening or watching.
DJ and Ray.
Yeah,
thanks.
And we will talk to you soon. Ciao. And stop there.